because we've got some taller updrafts in this particular region. Now, further north up through Saratoga Springs, Ballston Spa, Wilton, Barkersville, Corinth, Day Center, just tropical downpours, moderate to heavy rainfall, and this extends north into Glens Falls and Lake George and Kingsbury and Fort Anne, and this will continue for the next several hours. Warrensburg with some heavier rains right now. Lighter to moderate rains up across much of Hamilton County at the moment, but it really does pick up here in eastern Fulton, eastern Montgomery, all of Schenectady, Schoharie, and Albany County, seeing some tremendous rains at this time. Flash flood warnings, here is the update. Otsego, Delaware, Fulton, Montgomery, Schoharie, Schenectady, Albany, Saratoga. It's all of Warren, all of Washington, all of Rensselaer, all of Rutland, all of Bennington counties under flash flood warnings. National Weather Service Albany, they are reporting widespread significant flooding occurring, especially in Greene, Litchfield, and Berkshire counties, and widespread across southern Vermont. And we know out in Delaware County that there has been some significant flooding in and around Fleischmann's and Grand Gorge. Those reports are coming in through Facebook, where some evacuations apparently have been ordered in those areas. So that's kind of a synopsis on what's going on now. This storm is accelerating, so I am looking for the very heavy rain to start to taper down from south to north as we move through the afternoon. At first it diminishes, and then later today it tends to wind down. Storm center likely to go up through Litchfield and Berkshire County. So I'm going to wrap up now. Certainly Eric and I will be back in the next couple of minutes. Right now we'll send it to Liz Bishop with more on the news side of this story. Liz.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen. There are trees and power lines down all around this area. Marcy Natel is in Scotia right now along the river where the storm is hitting particularly hard. We're going to join her to get an update. Marcy?
That's right, Liz. The rain is just pounding down right now. I'm standing along the banks of the Mohawk River, and we're told right now that, believe it or not, the Mohawk is actually not high right now, but we're told it's expected to crest between 1 and 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, the entire county of Schenectady is in a state of emergency. Police in the city of Schenectady have asked residents to stay off of the roads at all times at this point unless there is an emergency, and for good reason. Here's a look at some of the dramatic pictures that we took this morning. A wind gust ripped a tree right from its roots on Van Branken Ave, landing on a neighboring home, and several streets are flooded and closed because of wires down from trees falling.
We just heard a loud crash after a big gush of wind. I looked out there and it was like, oh my God, it's crazy.
We didn't think this is the tree that was gonna fall.
Why not?
This is a live tree. We have a lot of dead trees in our backyard already.
This one's been standing here since I've been here 28 years, and I've always worried it was going to fall this way, but I mean, nobody ever told us that it was a danger. Just one of those things.
Now, that tree that fell actually caused significant damage to the house next door. It fell right on the roof, and we're told that water was leaking in. They were working to try to get tarps there. The fire department was there to assist. But there's scenes like that, you know, all over the city, all over the capital region. That was just a snapshot that we were able to take in about 2 hours' time. As you can see, the rain is pelting down and the wind is really picking up. So if you don't have to be out here, don't be. Live in Scotia, Marcy Natal, CBS 6 News.
All right, and we'll be checking back in with Marcy in a bit. National Grid is reporting power outages from Kingston in the south to Ticonderoga to the north and North Adams to the east to Utica to the west. They appear to be scattered outages, though, looking at the National Grid map, and not large numbers of people. And the state's 511 road map is covered with red right now where the roads are closed. In Schenectady, as you heard, you're being told to just stay home, do not venture out. They do have a lot of downed trees and roads closed in the Schenectady County area. And our crews are all over the capital region where this damage is widespread. In Glenville, we're hearing reports of lots of damage. There are trees and power lines down. The winds were picking up, and that was what was blowing those trees down. You see it in these pictures here. They're just large branches, and in some cases whole trees coming down. This is Rexford now, where the streets and flooded trees are just coming down. Balltown Road closed due to trees down. You can see muddy water flowing down the hill, and it is slow going where standing water is in the road. In Schenectady on Van Branken Avenue, you'll see the water there. This is another shot where you see it pooling on the sides of the streets, and that's surrounding the cars that are parked on the street. Our crews did see several fire department trucks out and there were a lot of power lines down, they're reporting back to us. They also noticed storm drains backing up, and they simply cannot handle the water, those storm drains. Now, I've been on the phone all morning long, checking with various police and fire agencies to get a sense of how this storm is hitting our local communities. And while there are some areas that, as we said, are getting hammered, here's what I can tell you from those conversations that I've been having with different agencies. Saratoga police tell me so far quiet. The road into the Spa State Park, I noticed at the Avenue of Pines, was closed as I was driving into work, but I called up and learned that in fact was shut down last night. They did it just as a precaution. You might remember a year or so ago, a tree did come down in a big storm and someone was killed. Well, Colony police tell me that they're doing okay. They've got tree limbs down. They've got crews on the scene. They say clearing them up right now. Central Avenue at I-90 is closed. I think if you've been watching all morning, you saw that earlier at that overpass there because of flooding underneath it. Chris Gloninger showing us very graphically what was going on with the water pooling up there, and that's a pretty standard spot for that to happen. The Watervliet Shaker Road near Memory Gardens, I'm told, is also shut down. The crews are clearing out a tree that came down there. I checked in with Pittsfield, too, because we know that they are in line of perhaps getting hit the hardest, but there's no big stuff there yet. They dealt with trees down, no fires, a couple of road closures at Lebanon and Hubbard Avenues, and they're trying to keep on top of things there. And just lastly, a quick point about driving on the Northway, getting somewhat treacherous. Not so much the tree limbs, although there are some branches in the road, which is still passable, but because of the pooling water, which is starting to pull at the cars as they travel through it. So you're going to want to slow down. Don't be a cowboy out there, and really only be on the road in an emergency. And by the way, just quickly too, Time Warner Cable tells me there are some local cable outages in the Niskayuna area that we're aware of, and they have no idea when the cable will be restored. Now, shelters are opening around the area, including in Albany. These sites will be open starting at 3 this afternoon. Albany High School Gymnasium and Auditorium, that's at 700 Washington Avenue, place for you to go. Sheridan Prep, that's 400 Sheridan Avenue, another place if you don't have power or you just need a place to ride out this storm. Albany School of Humanities, 108 Whitehall Road, another one of those shelters set up in Albany, and St. Teresa's Church, that's 435 New Scotland Avenue. If you've got any storm-related problems, contact the Storm Command Center at 434-4522. And after pounding North Carolina and the mid-Atlantic states, this storm has lost some punch as it's barreling through the most densely populated area of the nation right now. And Susan McGinnis has the latest for us. She's in Long Beach, New York, a tough place to be right now.
Ocean waters have spilled into the roadways in New Jersey, forcing one news crew to retreat.
Okay, we're going to back up.
Driving rain and powerful winds are slamming Long Island. Irene's full force is not expected until midday, but the storm is already flooding streets in Long Beach, east of New York City. Long Beach right now is grappling with the worst effects of this storm. Stores have taped up or boarded up, residents have hunkered down at home, and we hear about half of them have evacuated. Irene made landfall Saturday morning in North Carolina with wind gusts topping 100 miles an hour. The dangerous storm then charged north, punishing residents in Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. At least 4 million people are without power. Midtown Manhattan resembles a ghost town this morning after the city took unprecedented precautions for the storm. The nation's largest city shut down its subway system for the first time ever and ordered tens of thousands of residents to evacuate from low-lying areas. The mayor now says the time for evacuation has passed.
Everyone should now go inside and be prepared to stay inside until weather conditions improve.
New England is also bracing for a rare hurricane. Irene is expected to weaken by the time it reaches Connecticut and Massachusetts, but forecasters say it will still deliver huge amounts of rain and damaging winds. Susan McGinnis, CBS News, Long Beach, New York.
All right, with that as a national backdrop, let's find out Irene's path into this area. Now we're going to go back to Steve.
Thanks a lot, Liz. We will now continue our meteorological coverage of what has been a most impressive and unusual storm. Unusual in that it is tracked so far west and has come up the coast at a relatively slow forward speed and has maintained such intensity by doing so. Typically, these tropical systems are ripped apart with land interaction and moving over cool water. And certainly this one has weakened as expected, but not nearly as much as it might typically weaken if we didn't have some things happening at the jet stream level. There's a little trough of low pressure that's actually evacuating or pulling air out of the top of the storm, keeping the exhaust system of it going, which is why it has maintained some strength and intensity. Very strong wind fields are aloft, and those strong wind fields aloft at times are mixing down in some of the stronger wind bursts that we've been seeing. This is the latest radar and satellite animation of what Irene looks like. It is now clearing New York City on its trek up into Litchfield County. Significant drying continues to be indicated south of the circulation center, while we're still north of it and dealing with tremendous rain bands across most of the area. Storm track like this, accelerating, now moving northeast 25, 26 miles per hour, is going to pull this drier air northward fairly quickly this afternoon. Next couple of hours, we should see rain significantly shutting down. In fact, it looks like that's happening. Portions of Ulster and Dutchess counties at least getting lighter, and we've got quite the dry slot with much lighter rains coming up into Litchfield and Berkshire counties. It's going to take longer in the capital region and especially across the North Country, as we're going to have kind of a wraparound effect. Even as the storm gets by us, we're likely going to continue with some heavy rains. But I'd say by the mid-afternoon in the capital region, it will be lightening up, and through the late afternoon, evening hours across much of the North Country and the western Catskills. And of course, we've had widespread reports of significant flooding from the rainfall that has fallen so far. National Hurricane Center has the storm with 60-mile-per-hour winds right now. That's the projection. 3 o'clock, it's going to be up in here and racing to the northeast. Big orange area, that's the indication of the tropical storm force winds, which will continue to affect the region even as the rain begins to let up. We're still in for some stronger gusts, but it does appear as if we will see the strongest winds through the early afternoon while we're dealing with some of this exceptionally heavy rainfall. Instant Doppler 6 again showing the drying over the Berkshires and Litchfield County. That is a very impressive rain band that is being accompanied by thunder and lightning, and because of that, we think this rain band may have some potential of mixing down wind, which is stronger aloft down to the surface. So an enhanced damaging wind threat, not to say it's going to happen, but in pockets, much like a severe thunderstorm type event, we may see some pretty big bursts of enhanced wind as this generally tracks to the north and northwest. All of this is just true, steady tropical rains that are falling across the area. I've been using Facebook all morning. Lots of tremendous posts from you letting us know what's happening, which allows us to really let everybody out in the community know what's happening. If you want to post on my page, it's Steve LaPointe, WRGB. Be as specific as you can, your location, the time of, say, when the tree came down or the power line came down. Lots of pictures on that page from folks all across the region showing significant flooding. A report 12:09 in Clifton Park, hearing the thunder with the approach of that great big band of rain. Low rolling thunder now being reported widespread across the Hoosick Falls and New Lebanon area. A report from Christine about bridges out in Palinville and Kiskatom, and we are getting increasing reports into the newsroom that there's significant flooding in Greene and eastern Delaware counties, with many roads closed and many bridges going out. They're either being closed because of high water or some damage has been reported. A report from Richard here, 6 inches of rain in Cairo with heavy thunder in the Averill Park area. So that's kind of the scenario of what's going on across much of the region. I want to break and send it over to meteorologist Eric Torgerson with the ESP system. Eric's going to take a much closer look at this band, which again could mean a significant blow with some strong wind gusts coming into the capital region. Eric.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. We are looking at the broad picture here on the ESP radar system, and right about in here, down towards Litchfield, southern Berkshire County, that's near the center of what's now Tropical Storm Irene as it races off towards the north-northeast. So we'll zoom in on that band, which is pretty much just on the outer edge of the center, and we're seeing some of the heaviest rains that we've seen from Irene so far occurring right now across Columbia County, especially in the vicinity of Chatham. Just seeing some torrential rains with those shades of orange and red across central Columbia County. And this band, as we mentioned, extends further northward with a couple of lightning strikes across central Rensselaer County, as those Facebook reports Steve was mentioning have been reporting that thunder is occurring in this band as well, with this torrential rain up towards Brunswick right now, and also into southern Washington County near Cambridge and up towards Sunderland into Bennington County County as well. And this band is generally moving off towards the north-northeast, same as Irene, as again, it's just on the outside of the center of the system where we are seeing these torrential rains right now. And there is some potential, as Steve was mentioning, that we could have some strong wind gusts mixed down to the surface with this band. And this is our radial velocity mode on radar, and it gives an indication of the winds just a little bit above the surface. And you can see, especially across the Berkshires into Litchfield County, how those winds are 45 to almost 60 miles per hour. So there is some potential in some of these areas near the center of Irene for some of those stronger gusts to be mixed down to the surface, especially strong into Berkshire County and also across the Rensselaer, Columbia, and Dutchess County areas where those winds just above the surface range from 35 to 45 miles per hour. So we could be seeing some of those stronger gusts being mixed down to the surface with that strong band just on the outside of the center of what's left of Irene's circulation. Zooming you back out again, showing you the other area of heavy rain that we're looking at here, which is occurring right now across the capital region up towards Saratoga Springs, as well as over towards Rutland into Vermont, Glens Falls, Warrensburg, the eastern Mohawk Valley, through much of Schoharie County and back down towards Cairo and the Mid-Hudson Valley as well. So those two areas of heavy rain is what we're watching for, that one torrential area of rain near Chatham and a secondary batch just to the northwest of that, which is affecting the capital region. Now the rest of the area certainly not seeing dry conditions right now, but a little bit less heavy rain across the Adirondacks, back down towards Oneonta and across Delaware County, which is certainly good news for those folks. As again, as Steve mentioned, Delaware County has been one of the hardest hit areas so far. As we look at the rainfall total estimates so far, again, this is the radar estimate, but our weather watchers are confirming that these incredibly high totals have been occurring here. As we zoom things into this bright pink and purple bullseye, these are the highest totals we've been seeing. Radar estimates of 10 to 12 inches of rain here across central Greene County in the vicinity of Cairo and Tannersville and Windham. So this is the area we're looking at, and as Steve mentioned, where the Weather Service has outlined that there is significant flooding going on here across Greene County, as well as down towards Ulster County, northern Ulster County. We're seeing some incredibly high rainfall totals here as well, on the order of 6 to 8 inches. And even further north now, things are filling in here where the rain had been, or the rainfall totals had been a bit lighter earlier. That heavy rain has been continuing, and across the North Country now, even up into Saratoga County. Radar estimates of 2 to 4 inches of rain across northern Saratoga County, as well as into the Adirondacks, where we're estimating 1 to 3 inches of rain has fallen. So again, one more look at the broad radar picture here, the loop showing that center of Irene now tracking up through Dutchess and Litchfield counties, heading into Berkshire County. That intense heavy rain band just on the western side of that is tracking off towards the north here. So from the Hudson Valley points just eastward into Columbia, Rensselaer, Washington counties, you folks are in line for the heaviest rains here over the course of the next hour. All right, that's your look at the radar. Let's then send things back to Steve for another roundup of graphics and perhaps some more Facebook checks.
Yeah, Eric, in fact, just a note here on this particular band, very, very heavy rain here in Rensselaer and Columbia and Bennington counties. We might be able to argue that that is the remnant, maybe eye feature based on where we think the center of the storm is coming up like this. That's why we're seeing such a very intense band of rain here. And again, some potential that that band of rain is going to mix down some very strong wind as it moves up. We also noted on that radar animation that this is kind of now spinning around in place. We've got the dry slot coming up through the Berkshires and may now be coming up into Bennington and Vermont, but it looks like this area here, which is the vast majority of the region, may stay in this very heavy rain for at least the next couple of hours until the center moves a little bit further north and east away from the region, allowing that drying to come up from the south. So there's still several hours to go with torrential downpours and that potential for some strong wind gusts. Here's an interesting Facebook post from Joe. He's reporting 21 minutes ago that NIMO is cutting power to Middleburg, and also the Beaver Dam on Mill Valley Road has given out. So we'll work to confirm that. Checking out the latest winds, sustained 24 at Albany, 21 at Glens Falls. Again, these reporting stations don't always do a very good job at really showing the real deal. Albany's latest gust 35, but last hour it was 54, and Schenectady now showing a gust of 40 miles per hour. Here are the latest flash flood warnings across the region. Widespread and significant flooding being reported across portions of eastern Delaware, now portions of Schoharie and Greene counties. We've got flash flood warnings for Otsego, Delaware, for Fulton, Montgomery, for Schoharie, for Warren, for much of Saratoga, Schenectady, Albany, for Washington, for Rensselaer, for Rutland, and for Bennington counties. These are flash flood warnings for that rapid rapid flooding that can happen in an hour to 2 hours. Here's a highlight list of some of our WeatherNet 6 rainfall reports. Those numbers that you're seeing on the bottom of your screen coming in from our exclusive WeatherNet 6 Weather Watcher network. All this information is available on CBS6Albany.com. You just want to mouse over weather and then select WeatherNet 6 from the drop-down menu, and you'll get all of our spotter reports from the region. But look at this, Savoy and northern Berkshire County, high elevation spots, so some terrain enhancement there, 7.4. Whiteport, that's in Ulster County, likely not seeing any terrain enhancement. That's just pure tropical storm Irene, 7.3. Glenmont closing in on 7. Prattsville now, last report, it's an old one, 6 inches. Livingston, 5.5. Middleburg with 4.11. Jefferson, 3.7, 3.2 for Colony. But again, Schoharie County, Capital Region, seeing some of the heaviest of the rain right now, and these totals really are going to stack up. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, thinking that the back edge is going to be pulling into the Capital Region, out of the Berkshires, out of the Mid-Hudson Valley, and this northward track is going to continue through the night tonight. 11, 12 o'clock, still that indication of some lingering rain, portions of Warren, Saratoga, Washington, Rutland, and Bennington counties, but then we'll be clearing the region after that. So we are still in the thick of it, and we'll have some more specific weather coverage coming up in the next couple of minutes. Right now, I'm going to send it back to Liz Bishop with some new information. Liz.
All right, thanks very much, Steve. Yeah, there's a lot of new information coming in. For one, Saratoga Springs, I mentioned earlier that police thought they had a good handle on things there. Well, they've declared a state of emergency in Saratoga Springs. That's just coming across to us. The governor has now shut down the Tappan Zee Bridge from Terrytown to Harriman. So obviously that area, as Steve has been showing, and all the national pictures are showing as well, is being very hard hit. We've been showing you some of the damage going on right here in this area. We're going to check back in with Marcy Natal now. She is in Scotia, where you hear that rain really pounding right now along the river. Marcy, what's going on right now?
You can hear it, and I can certainly feel it. I mean, the rain is just coming down in buckets, and that's putting it mildly. Mixed with the wind, it's actually hard for us to keep our ground a little bit here. We're actually right on the banks of the Mohawk River in the parking lot of Jumpin' Jacks, which is obviously closed here today. A few spectators have ventured in here to take a look at any damage at all by the river and just how far the river is coming up. It's not expected to crest until tomorrow between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but police are stressing it's not a good idea to come out here. If you are out here, you should really go back home. Roads are closed, roads are flooded. In our travels just in the last few hours, we've encountered so many instances where we've gone down a road and we had to take a detour, turn around, or go another route because there's trees down, there's wires down. And when we're talking trees down, we're not talking just a few limbs here and there. There's been a couple of instances where we've seen trees, root ball and all, just ripped right out of the ground. And some of the homeowners are telling us that the trees were in good shape, they weren't dead, and they never thought this would happen, but because the ground is so wet, it's just the story that you're seeing over and over again, not only here in Schenectady County, but all across the Capital Region. Schenectady County is in a state of emergency right now, and police, again, in the city of Schenectady are asking residents and motorists to please not get on the road unless there is an emergency. And we will be here and update you with any more details as they become available, and as things happen, we're going to hit the road and see if we can find some more damage in the meantime. For now, we're live in Scotia. Marcy Natal, CBS 6 News.
All right, Marcy, thank you very much. CBS News was reporting that 4 million people nationwide are without power right now. The governor has been sending, his office has been sending out updates on power outages in New York State. The last one that we got showed that there were 750,000 people in New York State who are without power. National Grid was reporting 71,870 people without power, but those numbers are now a little bit old. We would expect an update from the governor anytime soon. I was talking to you before about road closures, and I'm hoping that you won't be able to see it in detail, but it's just an amazing picture. This is New York's WW511. Let me see if I can get that in the picture. And if you, there we go. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately it's tethered. Okay, tethered. But you see all the red spots on there? Those are road closures throughout the area, and you can see that just about everything is closed. I mean, I'm sure that's obviously an exaggeration, but there are a large number of roads that are closed throughout the northeast, certainly along. Well, let's see, it goes as far south as Atlantic City, from what I'm showing on this map, all the way up into Saratoga, and it's just solid red. So.
Liz, I'll add to what you're saying. I think my microphone is still on. Just from Facebook, and we can confirm this, Yeah, Thruway, south, Greene County closed from a Facebook post.
Okay, that was Steve. We're going to throw it back to him, but I just thought you might find that interesting. You can find that website, by the way, on our website, cbs6albany.com, where you will find a lot of these anecdotal stories about how people are dealing with the storm, what they're seeing in their backyards or their rivers and streams. And so I encourage you to go there. We've got live web chats going on right now. Let's go back to Steve right now and get an update from him on how Irene is moving into our area.
All right, Liz, yeah, we are seeing tremendous amounts of rain, and the reports are flooding it on Facebook. Here's a disconcerting one for me personally to show you. I mean, we're all in this storm together. We're all dealing with the varying effects. My friend and neighbor, Renee McDonald, in the Oaks subdivision up in Clifton Park, she's got pictures and reporting a large tree blocking the south entrance of my development, and reporting trees are splitting and falling as we've had thunder and some blasts of very strong wind coming into the Clifton Park area. So my own subdivision right now in Clifton Park being lashed by tropical storm force winds and tree damage. 9.7 inches of rain at least in Claremont, New York. That's down in Columbia County. Here's a report from Kathy in Pittsford, Vermont. Roads with major flooding in the Pittsford area in Vermont. Route 7, Rutland Town, underwater, heavy downpours, and this was as of 12:15. And in fact, we're showing that right here. Tremendous downpours of rain coming across much of Rutland County. Here's that very, very heavy band. There's been drying in the Berkshires and Litchfield County, but kind of on the western edge of the circulation center, a very enhanced band of heavy rain with thunder and lightning, and an enhanced potential for some very strong wind gusts as that continues to push into the capital region. In fact, the whole thing looks to be consolidating into this mass of tremendous tropical rain that continues now from portions of Columbia, Greene, Schoharie, Albany, Rensselaer, Washington, Warren, Saratoga, eastern Fulton, eastern Montgomery counties. This area now getting absolutely pounded with incredible rainfall, and it's likely going to stay this way for at least the next 1 to 2 hours before potentially beginning to break up. Meanwhile, with the storm center going across western New England, we're seeing that rain diminishing fairly substantially in Litchfield and Berkshire counties, but it looks like it's going to take longer in New York across the region. So with that said, here's a look at the flash flood warnings and widespread flash flood warnings now in effect. And Eric, I'm going to have you, after we toss to you, check on what's going on in Greene County, because we know there's extensive flooding in Greene County, but it's not lighting up as a flash flood. So there may be a general flood warning, which this graphic doesn't handle in Greene County. Just because you're not lit up on the graphic doesn't mean you don't have flooding. We know you do. Otsego, Delaware, now southern Herkimer, Fulton, Montgomery, Schoharie, all of Saratoga, Schenectady, Albany, all of Warren, all of Washington, all of Rensselaer, all of Rutland, all of Bennington counties in Vermont now seeing flash flood warnings, and that means imminent threat of that very fast rising water. This would be for small streams, creeks, things like that. The big rivers are likely going to go into flood, but it will take some time for that to happen as we see the runoff pouring into those rivers. So that's going to be a later today, tonight, Monday thing, perhaps for Schoharie Creek, the Housatonic River, the Mohawk River, and the Hudson River. Some of the latest totals from our WeatherNet 6 spotters. East Bern now checks in with 8 inches of rain. Livingston, 7.25. You'd almost think we're doing a nor'easter coverage, and these were snowfall totals, but no, this is pure rain. Tremendous amounts of rain now. Summit up to 705. Prattsville in Greene County, 7 inches of rain so far, with much more to come, at least 2, maybe 3 inches in those areas. Cobleskill, 5.3. Woodford, Vermont, our spotters there at 5.27. East Worcester, 4.67. And Rutland, Vermont, now checking in with 3.1 inches of rain. We're going to go to meteorologist Eric Torgerson. More analysis on that rain band and how much rain has fallen across the region. That's on ESP. Eric.
Yes, Steve, just to answer your question there about the counties off to the south, everybody across the area except for northern Herkimer, Hamilton, and extreme northwestern Saratoga County are either under a flash flood or a flood warning. So even though you didn't see the southern counties lit up in the flash flood warning graphic, you folks are under a flood warning. So everybody is seeing the threat for flooding here except those far northwestern areas where the rainfall has not just been as heavy as it has been in other spots. Right now, though, as Steve mentioned, we are seeing that very heavy rainfall in that one band here from Columbia up through Rensselaer, southern Washington, into Bennington County. all of you folks here are kind of on that outer edge of the center of Irene. So some of the heaviest rains we've seen so far in this area, and also further back towards the eastern Catskills up to the eastern Mohawk Valley, the southern Adirondack, Saratoga region, and the immediate capital region itself is seeing the secondary band of some pretty heavy rainfall as well. Let's zoom in on that first band, though, and take you down to the south. Again, some drying going on here across Litchfield, southern Berkshire County, as the center of Irene is now moving into this area, but just on the western side, there is that extremely heavy rain from, say, the Chatham Center area up through Nassau, Brunswick, and Grafton, up towards White Creek and Cambridge and Pittstown, and up towards Sunderland and Manchester Center, all in this band of very heavy rain, which may also encounter some rumbles of thunder and some lightning strikes in this band as well. Now, this band does have the potential, too, to mix down some of these stronger wind gusts that we're seeing just above the surface. So the numbers you see listed here on our radial velocity radar scan are not surface wind gusts, but they're occurring a little bit above the surface. And with those taller clouds in the heavier band of rain that we've been seeing there with those few thunderstorms, we could mix down some of these gusts of 35 to 45 miles per hour here in Rensselaer and Columbia counties, and the gusts of up to 58 miles per hour out towards Litchfield, Berkshire, and Benton counties. Again, not all areas will see this, but a few gusts could mix down to the surface of that strength. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on as well. Back to the radar again and take you out broader picture and back towards the west, where we also have this very heavy rain going on from Rutland through Warrensburg, Glens Falls, Wilton, Saratoga Springs, to Gloversville, Schenectady, Cobleskill, the capital region, and down towards Cairo as well, with that secondary band. A little bit lighter still across Otsego and Delaware, and now down towards Ulster counties, where things are drying out just south of Kingston, and also a little bit lighter up towards the western Adirondacks. Still coming down pretty good, though, over towards Speculator and Dolesville and Hamilton and Herkimer County is just a little bit lighter at this point in time. Radar loop showing how Irene has been moving off towards the north-northeast very quickly now. Again, the center of the storm is located right about in this area here and tracking just like this, or a little bit to the right of that arrow I've drawn here, perhaps a bit more like this, up through western New England. And this batch of rain here, this band, is just on the outside of the center of the storm. And that's been producing some of the heaviest rainfall rates we've been seeing so far this morning, and that's really helping to add to the totals now. And this is the radar estimate of the rainfall totals for the entire system here. And we're now seeing the reds fill in significantly in that area where we're seeing that band of heavy rain across Rensselaer, Columbia, and Dutchess counties. So we're really seeing some of that enhancement there, with the radar estimate now picking up as much as 5 or 6 inches of rain here in these counties, which may have been on the lower end of the totals thus far. But the spot we've been watching so far this morning in terms of the highest rainfall amounts has been the Catskills, where there has been that terrain enhancement, and this continues to be a spot that is seeing heavy rain. So we are especially concerned about the Catskills. We've been reporting out towards Fleischmann's in Delaware County, where there's been significant flooding, as well as into central Greene County, where the radar is estimating 10 and in some cases 12 inches of rain here on radar across central Greene County. So this has certainly been the jackpot so far.
And Eric, let me just jump in on that one a little bit. There could be a little terrain interference and maybe some corruption in the data there. I'm not denying that much rain has actually fallen, but again, this is a graphic illustrating what the Doppler radar, the algorithms in the Doppler radar, are looking at the type of precipitation and the intensity to come up with this estimate of what the radar thinks has fallen. Now, we haven't had any ground spot or truth of 10 to 12, not to say it hasn't happened, and we know there's a little ridge there and there's some radar interference, so that might be slightly elevated, but probably pretty close.
And the rest of the area now filling in as well, Steve, with these rainfall totals. The North Country was a little bit on the low side earlier, but now we are seeing those rainfall totals fill in. Radar estimates of 3 to 4 inches now across parts of Saratoga County and even up into the Adirondacks. Many spots now in excess of 2 inches of rain here. So certainly all of us, again, with those flash flood or flood warnings for everybody except northern Herkimer, Hamilton, and extreme northwestern Saratoga County. All right, Steve, that's all I've got. Let's go back to you at the weather wall for some Facebook checks and look at the graphics once again.
Okay, that sounds good. Eric, I want to clarify on the watch warning scenario. There are 2 types of flood warnings that are issued. One is a flash flood warning, which is what is depicted on this graphic, and that's including much of the coverage area. Flash flooding is the type of flooding that happens very, very rapidly. General flooding happens much more slowly, and essentially the entire region is now under a general flood warning. We're looking at that all across the board. The flash flood warnings here, there's Greene, Ulster, Dutchess, Berkshire, and Litchfield counties that did not light up under the flash flood warning are lighting up under the general flood warning. So the flood scenario is in progress across the entire area, and it is widespread and will only get worse, especially from the Hudson Valley west into the Adirondacks and back through the western Catskills, where we right now have a fairly semi-stationary band of exceptionally heavy rain. Some drying, though, has worked up into Litchfield, Berkshire, and even Bennington counties. Good news for Bennington County. A post here from Andrew in the Paper Mill Village area in Bennington County. A photograph, too, showing the Walloomsac River overtopping Route 67A. So flooding breaking out in Bennington County. Liz Bishop has some new information, so we're going to toss it over to Liz.